Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hey, gang. Welcome back to the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. This is the Code 47 podcast, episode 94. As I said, on the SFU podcasting network, which you can find off of our website of the same name, where you can enjoy all of our shows on our network feed. So please pop over. I am joined, as always, by my intrepid co-hosts, Mr. Peter Stein. Number one or number, you know what? I'm not numbering because you guys are equal in my heart. So Peter, you're up. How are you?
Doing all right. Hey, everybody.
Excellent. And not at all to diminish. I'm talking to the fantastic Kay. Kay, how the heck are you?
Well, I don't know now.
Oh,
I'm good.
I'm scrambling.
Technically, Peter is in uniform. I am just wearing a corgi riding a dinosaur T-shirt. So
you know what?
Great. So.
You know what? I tell you what. When those on the Cerritos, when those Cerritos tees are dirty, I think that they wear that as kind of a second choice. That's my guess.
This is Lower Decks uniform right here.
Yeah, exactly. The lowest of the lower decks, and we are joined by big friend not only to this show and to our ongoing efforts over on Patreon on the Personnel Files, where we've had a lot of great interviews entirely due to this individual. We're talking about Missy Merchant in the house. Missy, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I don't know if it matters where my rank is, but I'm representing the ship today with the GP,
I like it. Whoop, 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 whoop. Good deal. Yes, exactly. And the three of us do belong to the USS Grand Petoskey, which is one of the biggest chapters of the Starfleet Star Trek International Fan Club, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Missy is always, it's funny, I'm going to do the Patreon announcements in reverse because Missy is one of our top tier Patreons on our BFF level, along with Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias out there in Minnesota. We're very grateful for you. The Friends with Benefits levels, we do have Brendan Meyer, and on the Best Buds level is Missy's friend, Jamie Prinkley, who joined us recently after you two guys met down in Florida. So thank you, Missy, for helping grow the network. And now you're on the network and you're in all places all at once. So wild stuff. Well, cool. All right. Well, we're going to jump right in. We've been waiting almost a year for this episode since probably last, I'm going to say March or April, when the news was dropped that the cast of, the entirety of the Classic 7 of the Star Trek The Next Generation cast would be coming back to Star Trek Picard for its third and final season. So we've been waiting. We've been getting teases. We've been getting trailers, images, this thing, that thing. It's just phenomenally exciting. And now it's here. Now we've all seen the first episode. So Missy, as our guest of honor, how would you feel about summarizing what this episode for us before we get the conversation rolling?
That's a lot of pressure I was not prepared for. So
that is how this works. Sometimes you just got to jump with us, my friend.
So, this season back 25th century, Dr. Crusher and her son Jack are kind of attacked upon the Ilios. So when she becomes injured, she sends a distress message to Jean-Luc, who randomly happens to receive it on his very 20-year-old, I think you said, communicator.
That totally cracked me up because I saw somebody post on social media, like, how would you like to be an older, like a senior citizen, having all these badges around your house and they just randomly going off and you're looking for, it's not like you could get like Find My Phone. You got to go through boxes and, is it under this thing? I mean, it seems like a bad setup. But anyway,
Find My Phone didn't work because he was like, computer, where's this coming from? She's like, I don't know. I love finding it.
You did try.
It's a noise. Can't you hear it?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess desperate times call for desperate measures, so you take what you can get, but...
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I will relieve some of the pressure of you, and I will continue. We can tag team this deal. I'll read a bit, then I'm going to kick it over to Kay. Then Peter, you can finish us up. Take advantage of the fact that there's 4 of us. So
all 4 members of the crew, by the way. You said 3. Just saying.
Oh my God! You know what? Because you get so locked into it just being the 3 of us. So shame on me. So anyway, Picard does find his old dusty comm badge, and later on, with the help of Will Riker, when they're sitting at Guinan's bar in Los Angeles, which don't get me talking about the fact that there really shouldn't be a Los Angeles in the 25th century because it got washed away in the 21st century. But I digress. The 2 of them start talking about the message. They decode it. But Beverly had said to Jean-Luc, don't trust anyone. Don't send Starfleet, but come and rescue me. So they're able to use a secret code that Riker has to basically figure out the coordinates of where she's at. But then what they need to do is get a Starfleet ship to get them there. And what happens from there, Peter?
Well, we go and they board the not newly minted, but newly built, I guess, new Titan A. It's not really clear how old it is.
It's really weird to me because they make it sound like a refit, but much like our own USS Grand Petoskey, if you follow the lineage from our website, the Grand Petoskey, which is the ship, which is the namesake, used to be a Galaxy class ship, but it was refitted and then it got a new registry number. So potentially this is kind of the same thing, but it's a totally different style of what the old Titan looked like. So, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a space frame nitpick, which I'll mention later. But they board the Titan on the pretense of a surprise inspection and attempt to get the captain to change course so they can visit where Beverly is. This does not go well.
Yeah, he ain't having it. Yeah.
Does not go well at all. The first officer is 709, who is now compelled to go by Annika Hansen. And she decides to disobey her captain's orders and take them to where they need to go anyway. And I'm sure she's going to get chomped later.
Maybe so. But okay, so yeah, and Kay, talk to me about that awesome dining room scene where they're dealing with Captain Shaw, or as I have dubbed him, Captain Dick Butt. Don't care for him.
Yeah, definitely setting him up to be the character you love to hate. He's very by the book, very this is my ship, my rules. Starts eating dinner before they even get in the room, saying that their reputation has preceded them.
So rude.
So far ahead of them that he decided to start early. So he is a very by the books guy. He is very passive aggressive in his critiques of Riker and Picard and their past exploits. In the meantime, you have kind of a side mission going on with Raffi, where she's working as an undercover intelligence agent for Starfleet. She's trying to find some sort of super warp weapon that, from my understanding, wasn't part of any of the previous seasons. I didn't remember anything about this. So
at least from the trailer, they had kind of the money shot of the domed building collapsing without any context. So that was it. But yeah, you got no glimpse. Yeah, no glimpse. Yeah,
she's looking for something called the Red Lady. You find out later that has to do with the attack that's going to take place on Starfleet. And so in the meantime, we have 2 very opposite stories that are going on, which obviously will, converge at some point.
Right.
Oh, and it ends with us finding out that, surprise, Beverly has another kid, and gosh, he's almost 20, and for some reason, British accents are genetic in this world.
It's so funny because April and I were rewatching it this morning, and I said, well, if that's Picard's son, because let's face it, we're all really leaning into the fact that we feel like it's Picard's kid. He did explain to us that after World War II, his family abandoned Chateau Picard. They relocated to England, where they lived for several generations, which means the family's French accent post 1940s France became a British accent by the time. Yeah.
And that makes sense for him. However, if this kid has been being raised for 20 years with Beverly, why the does he have a British accent?
You know, hypothetically speaking, he had a stepdad or another male influence or somebody else around him who had a British accent. However, that seems a little bit of a stretch. So
we don't know how she talked to him off camera either. So maybe she tried to keep up that lineage.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because it's funny because we see, I don't think he actually gets named on screen, though. They do drop the name Jack here. Does he say his name? Because she doesn't say his name. Because Beverly, who is wounded in this, you know, in the opening salvo, because
he never said his name. We do not actually see him until he is in the last scene, quote unquote, with Picard and
where he's holding Riker at gunpoint. Yeah, he doesn't come out saying, "And my name is Jack," but because and I love that opening montage that opens with the episode. You're seeing this long, slow camera grab across all these mementos that are Beverly. She actually has in a glass case a footlocker that has Jack Crusher, her first husband's or her deceased husband, because you don't know, she and Picard were never married. You don't know that, but again, you don't know that she didn't remarry. She could have been, but then again, she also could have been some kind of like Linda Hamilton-esque Sarah Connor, you know, run and gun person for the last 20 years, you know, raising the John Connor of the Star Trek universe. Who knows? We've seen one episode, but you see all this stuff, but then she lives on this crappy looking ship that has to it's like somebody driving a 72 Pinto. Got to really crank it to get the warp engine working, and meanwhile she gets boarded by these weird aliens in creepy masks, and it's just what a wild setup to getting this whole thing rolling. You know what I'm saying? It's just more questions than there ever could be answers. Kind of get the ball rolling with this. So, okay, so that's the first episode in. Any further thoughts before we kind of jump into doing, you know, look forward? Like what's everybody's 2 cents? We'll start with Missy, since you started reading first. So overall vibe of the episode, how you feeling?
I'm feeling more hopeful than pretty much any episode in season 2 so far. So I feel like they actually, this feels a lot more, I don't want to say like Star Trek-esque, but it feels a lot more true to what the actual storyline would have been from Next Gen. So I'm hopeful for that.
Right. For sure. Peter.
I know that last time I said I was, you know, not super excited. I am now cautiously optimistic.
Wow. It's a step in a direction.
I know. The main thing is, like, I liked episode 1 of season 2, and then
right. I kind of feel the same way.
So I'm sitting here going like, you did really well on this one. I have some questions about Beverly. Like, there's some things I didn't like about that, but
right.
Please don't screw it up.
I mean, I would go so far to say that with both of the previous seasons, we had a nice, strong, rolling setup where you're like, all right, we got a lot of promise. We're going to do a lot of stuff. Season 1 on the balance delivered more so because you had the story of Dal, and now I'm forgetting the android twins. Yeah. Dollar Dash. What was her name? Was it Dollar Dash? I can't remember.
Dal is from Prodigy.
Oh, my bad. Thank you. You see all the DATA, like data, which is funny. That's kind of how that rolled out. There was a lot of promise in that, and I feel like, while season 1 could have been better, I feel like they kind of delivered on that. But with season 2, where you had this great big, like, oh my God, it's going to be so great. And then just right off a cliff, you know, for 10 episodes. But anyway, we've talked about that kind of ad nauseum. So, Kay, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more critical than I was coming into it, because the storyline with Rafi seems very, very messy, like incorporating her the way that they are. I wish that it would have been something where just on the news, like it just popped up that they saw this happen, versus it being this weird, like underground type of thing. And, you know, they're having her, you know, back again, dealing with substance abuse and being in an underground area. And I don't know if it's just the direction that they're having her do, like the direction that they're giving her, but I just never really feel... There's just something about Rafi where I'm just like, I just can't like connect with her as a character. I'm not sure if it's the acting. I'm not sure if it's the right direction they're giving, but everything always feels a little forced.
So yeah,
I'm a little I'm a little hesitant because it seems very sloppy with how they're putting these stories together, even though it seems interesting. So,
gotcha. Okay.
Also, this feels completely isolated from the previous 2 seasons.
It does.
So I'm like, where are you trying to bring this in? Is this going to be something that comes together? I mean, they didn't connect season 2 to season 1 at all. So like, maybe this is just a whole new story, and the ideas that we were having, and the theory crafting of they're partnering with the Borg, so when the Sentinels come back,
right,
that'll be able to band together and show that organics and AI can work together. So maybe there's a whole new thing, but I really wish that they didn't try to build this weird. It feels very much like season 2, where they just had a bunch of threads unraveling all the time and they had no idea how to put them together.
Yeah, well, there's that aspect of it. My initial thought, and Peter, you and I talked about this earlier in the week, is that for the TNG fan who's like, oh my God, I grew up like all of us. I grew up watching TNG and I absolutely love it. But, I saw that last movie, like we talked about Nemesis here on this program a few months ago, and it was just, we hated it. And after that, you were just like, you know what, I'm giving up on Star Trek. I'm done. And let's say they walked away from Star Trek for 20 years. This show came back on. They were like, well, should I go back? I don't know if I need another streamer in my life. But then this hypothetical individual hears a year ago, wow, they're bringing back all the TNG cast. Maybe they're going to get it right again. So they tuned in, but then they said, oh man, should I watch previous seasons? I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. And they tune into this episode. In a lot of ways, the somewhat tentative ties reaching backwards, Kate, to your point, to the previous seasons in some ways are not a hindrance. Like, okay, here's Picard. He's an admiral. They don't really make mention of the fact that he's a golem. He's an android. It's not important to the story at this point anyway. He's having a romance. He's living at home. Here's Riker. He mentions, that Troy and he has a child and they're back at home. And detecting a little marital discord there, he said, well, I'm sure that Deanna and Castro would be just fine with the time away from me. I was kind of like, what? They seemed really solid when we saw them before. So what's the scoop?
Again,
I don't know.
It was just season 2 conflict for conflict's sake.
Yeah, exactly. So
or it's a misdirect.
Could be.
He was playing the trombone too loud, and it was like, okay, just take a break.
If you watch the little teaser at the end of like, this is what's happening in season, like the rest of the season, there's a part where she's like yelling at him, and she's like, "You dropped me and everything just when Picard came, calling for you."
I didn't see that part. Okay.
I didn't see that part either. Where was? I'll go back and watch it. Where was that?
That was at the end of the after the credits.
Really? Oh my God! You know what? You hear about something like that again, don't keep it to yourself, because I didn't know.
I assumed that everybody else watched it because y'all are like on top of stuff usually.
I watched it.
I just, because the credits are rolling, and then they pop out and they try to make you watch something else. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I'll turn it off. But I did watch The Ready Room, which I am never fond of. And I probably mentioned to all of you guys. I met Will Wheaton in Chicago at Mission Chicago. Thought he was a super great guy. His persona when he does that show drives me up the wall. Sorry, Will. I'm sure you'll never hear this show, but it just kind of. But anyway, I watched that because he had an interview with Gates and with Sir Patrick, and then he had Terry Matalas on afterwards. And Terry Matalas is the dude. I'm super enthused by that guy. And turns out he started his career as a PA on Voyager like 25 years ago. He started as a lowly go get me coffee kind of guy, and now he's running Star Trek as a showrunner for this program. So I'm really, really enthused about that. So, okay, let's wrap this up with a series of 4 questions. Everybody gets one answer. We're going to go season look forward, hopes, fears, bold prediction, lame prediction. We'll start again in the fashion that we have. Missy, I'm going to toss you first. We'll go round robin. So give me a hope for season 3 of Picard, the finale, the final season.
I hope that it doesn't turn into like following in with the first 3 seasons. I hope it doesn't wrap up a tragic trilogy.
The trilogy of tragedy. That sounds like what is that? Panic at the Disco? Wasn't that one of their albums? I don't know. I have no clue. Peter.
I'm going to go full idealism on this one, and I'm going to hope that they do a good story with the crew, give them a good send-off like Undiscovered Country for TOS, and maybe set up the next generation.
A new program. Yeah, that's my vibe as well. Kay.
I hope that I get Worf for more than one episode.
Yes, please.
Because he's my favorite.
I understand.
And that they don't drop the threads like they did in the previous seasons, and they're able to keep it coherent.
Too many threads on the floor. All right. I feel like the fear. Oh, and mine will be. I want a satisfactory conclusion that leads us to something greater that happens in this time frame, and that keeps our next generation rolling, because we've got that great spread of, we're prequel-ish, we're in between Quill-ish with TOS and the Strange New Worlds era. We've got things going on just post TNG with Lower Decks and with Prodigy, and then we've got the 32nd Century with Discovery, which I assume is going to potentially be the next thing we get back. So I would like to see something that happens in this super early 25th century time period that keeps some of this moment. If we get great momentum, that it keeps going, that doesn't go off a cliff. So fears again. I feel like we're going to kind of have all the same fear, but Missy, go with the obvious if you have to. It's fine by me.
Actually, my fear for this is that they're going to have some form of major core character death, but not so much that they'll have it, but if they have it and they have it so unnecessarily where it didn't have to happen or it was no point in the plot.
Like Kirk's death in Generations. I fell off a bridge, or excuse me, I rode a bridge. Whee!
Bridge on the captain, yeah.
Bridge on the captain. Bridge. Oh, ouch. Okay, Peter, what you got?
Can I boil it down to one?
Yes, close your eyes. Use the Force. Oh, sorry, wrong franchise.
So, my fear is that it's going to go kind of the same route as the rest of the seasons, where it has like some interesting ideas and then all of a sudden just drops them and forgets the characters and just kind of does its own thing. That's kind of my fear, is that we'll get kind of same old of, hey, here's a good idea, and
soup sandwich. Okay.
Yeah, definitely along the same lines of, I am very worried that they will do like they did in season 2 especially, which is betray the characters for the sake of moving the plot forward, where you end up with conflict and discord where there shouldn't be, because it isn't in the way that the characters would normally behave. Especially because you have very established characters at this point. Like, yes, it's been 20 years.
The most established characters, really. Yeah.
There's really, like, the way that they're setting up with Troy and Riker, I'm already like, that doesn't seem very much them. Like, especially when we saw, Diana in season 1, where she was like, why wouldn't you help him? Of course you would help him. It's Picard.
Right, exactly.
So, now she's pissed about it. Doesn't make any sense. So
right.
I'm really worried about that.
Yeah. And the whole Beverly, like, and nobody's ever heard from her in 20 years. That also really doesn't seem like her.
Yeah. Also, that is my big fear, is that I was really excited to have her back, because I was like, cool, we're finally going to be able to see Beverly when she's not defined by her motherhood. And then the first thing they do is introduce a son that we didn't know about.
Yeah. Not so much. Okay. Predictions. You know what? We'll boil this down for the sake of time. One, you can either have a bold prediction or a lame prediction. So we'll go with Missy first.
I don't know if you want to qualify it as bold or lame, but I predict that somehow there's going to have the family dynamic between, like, this estrangement between parent and other children, between Picard and Raffi. And I don't know if it'll be, like, good that they're going to have this together, or if it's going to be like a way to drive a wedge between them more. That's my prediction. Is that going to be a key point?
Gotcha. Closer together or further apart? Peter?
I am going to lamely predict that we're going to get a tie-in from season 1 that they've been talking about with the murder bots from outside the galaxy, and that Lore and Moriarty are going to be involved to do some sort of dumbassery.
Right. God. Because this episode didn't really even give you a tenuous description. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, you were winding up. I could see you were like,
Peter kind of stole my thunder, because they in that teaser, they confirmed the Lore.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that it's going to be a bold prediction. Hopeful prediction is that they are actually going to be able to still tie in these previous 2 seasons, because there have been references to the Borg. Like they had that captain's log message
from
about the Borg.
Right. Okay. Yeah, a little tease. I didn't really think about that much.
That's my hopeful.
Right. And it was interesting. You're right. And that really ties back to, it's like, why is she listening to his, log from, 35 years ago? And probably because she's thinking about the Borg and thinking about tech, because she's on the run. And why is she on the run? So, yeah, you're right. I kind of roll everything you guys say in together, saying, yes, I fear that there could be something off character for the most established characters, and really all people who have had more screen time than the TOS characters, which were the most established and the most probably people outside of the franchise really think of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. But those of our kind of muddled generation, because I'm the oldest and you guys are all in your 30s, that TNG is really the bedrock of how a lot of us became big Star Trek fans. So yeah, I am fearful that could be messed up as well. But like as I said, I have journalist friends. My journalist friend Kurt Krug, who's a member of the chapter, has got that media screener, watched it, and said it's great. It's there are some things, like Peter had mentioned, that I wasn't crazy about choices they made, but on the balance, it's great. So, and other people who have seen that same screener are kind of echoing that, but that's what journalists are supposed to do. So you can't really trust it until you see it with your own eyes. So, all right. Okay. Well, that is the end of talking about Picard. We will be back in 2 weeks, talk about episode 2 and 3, and we're going to bid adieu to Peter. Peter, where do people find you out there on the interwebs?
You can find me in various places at Petrus Aquinas. You can also find me over on ELH's channel playing a Vulcan engineer now. So
ooh, a Vulcan engineer. Tra-la-la. All right. Well, we will take a brief pause for station identification, and we'll be back to talk about part 1 of Deep Space Nine, season 1. So stand by. All right, we're back for the first part of Deep Space Nine, the 1994 to 1995 season 3. This was my freshman year at Michigan State. And this was also the fall of 1994 because TNG had ended. This was a standalone series of Star Trek at that time until Star Trek Voyager started in January of 95. So DS9 was the only game in town. And to a lot of people, and it's funny because I just, in watching that recent Star Trek documentary of people who, I lived in a town that didn't have UPN. A lot of people thought Star Trek ended with TNG if they weren't avid fans, because it just wasn't that easy to find, because this was in syndication, but it's such a starkly different series than TNG. But again, that's why I loved it. So anyway, I'm going to get this kicked off talking about The Search Part 1, which was directed by Kim Friedman, story by Ira Steven Behr and Robert Hewlett-Wolf. Those are two of the mainstays, kind of the bedrock dudes of Deep Space Nine, and teleplay by Ron D. Moore, who I am very excited, Missy, when we get to Vegas this summer, of meeting him. That's the first creator that I'm like, I really want a picture with him or an autograph. I'm going to do something, because I love this dude's work. Kay and I talked recently about his mini-series of Battlestar Galactica that started that show off again, and I love what he does. So anyway, Sisko takes the new USS Defiant into the Gamma Quadrant to find the mysterious leaders of the Dominion and to avert a war, while Odo is having a bit of a midlife crisis, or kind of a teenage freak out, whatever you want to call it, and he's drawn by instinct towards his home planet in the Omarion Nebula in the Gamma, I was going to say in the Delta Quadrant, in the Gamma Quadrant. Wow, we definitely got some changes in this one. Little tweaks to the uniform. The undershirts were super purple, which I thought was, I thought it was a weird look. And again, uniform nitpick, so it's like not to talk about the story, but I thought it was a weird look, and I don't know if it lasted the whole season. It certainly didn't last into the one after that. And we got the famous new comm badge design, which was done because Star Trek Generations, the first Star Trek film, came out that, I'm going to say November or December of 1994. So they wanted a new look in that regard, even though they stuck with the same uniforms. If you watch Generations, they're wearing both these uniforms which were super borrowed from the DS9 set. Riker is wearing Sisko's outfit in that. Geordi is wearing O'Brien's outfit in that. So it's just like, really, guys, you cough up a couple of extra bucks. And what a real bummer is that if you look at Star Trek Generations, any of the background, they had these really super cool new uniforms designed that went so far into production that there's a line, the action figures that Playmate produced for Star Trek Generation has them in these cool new uniforms, which is such a bummer. But anyway, I'm a bit off topic. This was a cool two-parter. Without a doubt, I thought this was a great way to start it. Season 2 ended with the introduction of the Jem'Hadar and the Vorta, who are, we find out jumping ahead into the second part of this, are the, weird little critters that kind of purport themselves as being the heads of the Dominion, but they are not, because that's what gets revealed in this episode. So, yeah, guys, what did you think? Missy, jump in, please.
I thought it was a decent start to the season. I liked how they kind of brought some of the changes about. As far as the first part of it, I'm not gonna lie, one of my favorites is when they have the initial debriefing with Kira about trying to figure out if the Dominion attacks, what is the likelihood, how is DS9 gonna handle, and basically the end result is we're screwed.
We're effed.
Yeah.
Great meeting, guys. Thanks. We could have done this in an email.
Another meeting that could have been an email. But no, and then of course Sisko gets to come in. I don't want to say necessarily to the rescue, but be like, but look at the new toy we have to play with. Let's talk about this and what this can happen with this.
Right. Brought in kind of pointedly because a lot of people were like, what's the station that they have the little runabouts, but it's like being excited about owning a Volkswagen Passat. You know what I mean? Ooh, it's not the same as the Enterprise. So they got to get, basically the Cadillac or, the Suburban, if you will, like the big beefy, like ship with, pew pew explosion torpedoes and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it just kind of really to spice things up. So, and off they go, and we get our first real taste of Romulans in the series with Martha Hackett, who's the same actor who plays Seska in the first few seasons of Voyager, if you hadn't picked that out. So I think Martha Hackett's pretty cool. But this was her first introduction to Star Trek. And I think she made a great Romulan because, again, she's great at playing, kind of obnoxious, villainous characters. So it was a good fit. So, Kay.
Yeah, this one was really fun. And I watched them back to back, so my notes are kind of, fuzzied together. But I remember I was initially watching this, and my first notes were, why in the hell is this so choppy? What is going on? Because, you have just random, okay, and Sisko's back. No explanation. Okay, got the ship. Okay, we've got, then they're in the room, and they're doing this stuff. And it was very, very, because I'm this feels almost like a dream sequence, or it's not real. Something is crazy weird. And I'm this is really bad for kicking out the third season. And so I would say it's kind of gutsy for them to roll with this as their first episode, because you find out later that you're basically seeing all this stuff from the perspective of them as they're in,
the dream tank in the second part. Yeah.
And so then all of that makes sense. Is you're oh, okay, that wasn't just really bad directing. There was a reason for it.
Right. And I'll tell you what, just to simplify things, I mean, part 2, which is a direct continuation, because at the end of part 1, we end up with Odo and Kira have escaped in a shuttlecraft after the Defiant was found and attacked by the Jem'Hadar. I'll just go ahead and read this. Part 2 is directed by Jonathan Frakes. Yay. I think his first DS9 assignment, because this was again just post the end of TNG. Same writers. The teleplay in this case was done by Ira Stephen Bear, and obviously aired the following week. And it takes place, the real time sequence of it is just Odo and Kira on the Changeling planet. But the inside of it is, like you said, it's what we ultimately find out is a fantasy where you start with a shuttle with Sisko and Bashir have been limping through space, and they get rescued by Dax and O'Brien, who in the first part, they went to a Dominion comm relay and got captured, and really everybody got captured, and they ended up in these brain think tank things, that's a sci-fi trope that's been not only in every Star Trek, but really feels like, every Doctor Who or, Red Dwarf or, Babylon 5 or whatever. I don't know. And any sci-fi show you can think of, they always have the dream, unibrain, and at the end, it's a Bobby in the shower scene, which is a Dallin's reference if you don't get it. I liked that show, but it was seriously 80s kind of deal. But yeah, you get, that if the Dominion tried kind of this sly takeover, you get back, one of the badmirals from TNG, which is Admiral Nechayev, who I met that actress at an early con I went to, and she was a hoot. I really enjoyed talking to her. But that essentially, this sly takeover of the Dominion resulted in alienating the Romulans, which is a bad idea, and then essentially the Federation giving up the wormhole in Deep Space Nine and their efforts to bring Bajor into the Federation, which is Sisko's entire purpose in his career is to be there for Bajor, because he really loves Bajor and obviously wants them to be part of everything. So, I think it's a pretty satisfactory two-parter. And at the end of it, it's obviously revealed that the changelings, of which Odo is a part of, but not really aware of, are the heads of the Dominion. And this is all their big master plan. And so a little bit of an identity crisis for Odo. And at the end of it, obviously, they, the Defiant's in orbit and they go home and blah, 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 and life goes on. So, to me, it's a classic, but obviously, yes, it functions better as a single parter, as every cliffhanger does. So, other thoughts, guys?
I did really enjoy the struggle that Odo had while he was on the Changeling planet, because of course you're finding them as the founders, and it's really kind of two sides of the same coin, where him and Mama Changeling have this really great conversation over
it's weird to call her Mama Changeling when it's like they when the changelings change together and go, it's kind of sexual.
She refers to him as a child several times, so
it's very sexually confusing. And again, as the series goes on, during the whole Dominion War arc in season 6, when they're on this, they're on the station because Starfleet is pulled out. I hated to say pull out. Sorry, that's a bad reference for where this is going.
Especially with Mama Changeling.
There's a lot of sexual confusion with Salome Jens, who plays the Mama Changeling, and her relationship with Odo. But but anyway.
I think it was based off of the dialogue. It seems like it was supposed to be played off more of a mother-child relationship. But yeah, I will agree. Like, they're weird hugging and stuff. I'm like, is this like mama or like mama? Like, what is going on?
Ooh, mama. Mama said.
We'll leave what people think as far as her name, Mama Changeling, what that mama means, okay?
Mama Mia, that's what that means, damn.
Back to my original point.
By all means.
I did really enjoy the conversation and the challenge that she broached with Odo, where she was saying, you believe in order. And he's like, no, I believe in justice. And she's like, what's the difference? And it really shows that Odo is he is lawful good, for sure. Like, that is his alignment. That is what Odo does. And the founders are fascists. Like, their order is they're in charge. It doesn't matter what happens in the meantime, as long as they're the ones who are making the decision. That's what they determine order is. Where Odo is very much like, he's fascist light. You can change his mind.
Like Bud Light? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Odo like. And he definitely is a stickler for the rules. Like, he sometimes, is a little bit too harsh with the way that he wants to penalize people, very cop friendly, but also knows where to draw the line and will listen if someone is like, hey, Odo, we need to consider this. And it's never something where even when the Cardassians were in charge, he never saw the Bajorans as any less, and he thought that they should be treated equally to the Cardassians.
Right. Well, Missy, your thoughts? Well, just roll it all in to the two-parter. What do you think? Good way to get things rolling as DS9 being kind of the only game in town for the 3-month period until Voyager came out.
By the time of the end of the two-parter, I feel like it was a good start. Kind of like with Kay, though, I really did feel for Odo as far as, the complete dichotomy of feeling like the outsider, then, oh, crap, these are my people, that's so cool. Crap, they're actually not that great, so maybe I don't need this toxic family, so I'm just going to step back where I was anyway. So there was a lot of boundaries in that.
Yeah. In essence, he learned a lot, but he learned that, what I got going on is pretty okay, and let's just, people telling you, well, they're your family, and family, blood is thicker than water. Blah, blah, blah. Blood is definitely not thicker than water with the changelings because they're all goo. So blood is not thicker than goo.
It's all
goo is not thicker than water. It's very viscous. I don't know. There's a lot of confusion going on.
We're going back down to the Mama Changeling territory that we should probably not address.
Oh yes, yeah. So the goo is the goo is. Oh God, the goo is the word. I realized I hadn't named this episode. So yeah, goo is the word. Okay, so let's mercifully move on.
Let's pull out from these 2 episodes and move
on.
Oh,
God. Ouch. Well, Missy, you have just earned yourself the right to jump into the House of Quark, which just happens to be behind you. So take it away.
Yeah, quite possibly one of my favorite episodes from this season, if not one of the entirities. It probably make like my top 5 for DS9, but The House of Quark, directed by Les Lando and written by Tom Benko. And it starts out, as many of Quark's scenes do, in his bar, and he is kind of deciding what he's going to do with this overly obnoxiously drunk Klingon, Kozak, who feigns an attack. I will say feigns an attack on Quark, because we can't really say actually tries to attack him. Ends up killing himself by falling in much probably the way that my Klingon death would look. Which, of course, Quark takes advantage of as the Klingon slayer, essentially, of DS9, only to have Kozak's widow come back and claim him as, you are now part of our nation and you will now be the head of my household.
Claim. Did she lick him in like the pillow? And that was a famous story of my son, my stepson April's son, when he was a kid. Hold on. They were in a department store. He's like, I want this new pillow. April said, no, you don't get this new pillow. And then he licked it. Well, it's mine now, was the logic of a 10-year-old. So there you go.
Okay.
I mean, for Klingon, I say essentially yes, she claimed him. So as much as a Klingon warrior princess ever will.
Warrior princess. Oh, nice. Oh, my goodness. And this episode also gave us the first DS9 appearance of Gowron, who I'll get to meet. If he's not on the cruise, because April and I are kicking off to the cruise in just a few days, but I know he's going to be in Grand Rapids Comic-Con either in the spring or the fall show. That's something that, so we'll all potentially get a chance to meet him, potentially. But yeah, this was the beginning of his run on DS9, where he played a much more important part than he did in TNG, including his death. Spoiler alert. Sorry, that does happen at the end of the series. Womp, womp. I know. Ouch.
Damn it, Charlie.
I know. Sorry, I've just gone and spoiled something from 20 years ago. My bad. Womp, womp. 25 years ago. So yeah, this was fun. This was your typical kind of Quarky send up of him doing Quarky stuff. The elder in the house he was an actor that guested from the original series. He was in that great, if you remember, it was the Gamesters at Triskelion. It was like, I'll bet 20 Quatloos on the newcomer. Okay, you'll have no idea what we're talking about. Never mind.
No.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, he was one of several, and then we also get him back.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, do. We also get him back in Voyager playing a Vulcan elder who advised Tuvok when Tuvok was a teenager. So, yeah, I love seeing those weird like guest stars getting sucked back in to these kind of like Diana Muldaur, who's Dr. Pulaski. It was a couple of different characters in TOS. So anyway, any other thoughts about this before we move on?
Yeah, I gotta say I'm obsessed with Grilka, and we needed an entire spinoff series with her. 100%.
Right. She's pretty awesome.
The House of Grilka, just that. And I think that as much as fabulously awesome, because Missy hit the nail on the head as far as like, this is peak DS9, definitely top episodes for me. Again, they do the nice thing that is really great with DS9, where there's 2 kind of parallel storylines where you have, Quark finding himself in this, definitely not working out relationship. Definitely opposites attract, not really great. But then at the same time, you have Chief O'Brien and his wife, and as he's like, school closes down, she's dealing with depression and feeling, very, very useless. And he is desperately trying to figure out like what he can do to help her out with that. So you come in, and I think it's just a really great way. And I think that he comes in for, Best Husband Award. And I think Rom comes in for Best Little Brother Award. Aw,
totally. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I totally my brain kind of blanked out on the Chief O'Brien side story, but that was awesome. Good stuff. All right. Well, Kay, it's your turn. Episode 4 is yours.
Yeah. So we have Equilibrium, which was directed by Cliff Bole. You have a story by Christopher Teague. that's right, Teague. Yeah.
I believe so.
By Renee Echeverria. And it aired October 17th of 94. And this is a secret from Dax's past. Could mean the end of the current host's life. So, this, again, I love Dax and everything about them and her race. And so it was really great to see kind of like the dirty underbelly.
Yes.
Everything that was going on.
Yeah, you're right, because it's very skeevy. Yeah, Dax gets these memories that she can't explain. And, this leads him back to the Troll homeworld so she can go to the big doctor. And then, immediately there's a conspiracy that ends in finding out that the Dax symbiote had been host to basically an unworthy I don't want to use the word donor, an unworthy pairing. Host in the distant past, who the guy turned out to be a murderer. And they were like, we're going to erase those memories, because if people knew that our, screening process wasn't as good as we thought it was, we're screwed. Because then symbiotes will basically, they'll be on eBay. People will just be buying and selling them. It'll be a mess. Trill eBay. Ooh, that could be another name for this episode. I like it. Fun fact, before we get kind of Missy's thoughts, is that this is the episode canonically, stardate wise, that it coincides closest with the beginning of Star Trek Voyager. So at some point during this episode is when Voyager kind of passed through and then went on to end up in the Delta Quadrant. If you look at the star dates, if you're a nerd like that, which I happen to be. That was my fun fact. Missy, your thoughts?
I liked this episode as far as with the counselor, the psychology brain, working between Cisco trying to figure out whatever he can do to save the old man and to save his new crew member, but at the same time you have the doctors being like, we screwed up so bad, we have to just get rid of this.
Yeah, right. Give me my shovel.
Right. Right. We tried to kill this the nice way. Now we're going to have to do it the not nice way.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, if you look at it at baseline, it's an ethical dilemma for both sides. So how otherwise do you come to this conclusion other than ultimately, obviously, they save it so everybody can win? But
right.
I like that. I like the mental dichotomy of this is an ethical issue, not only for one side, but for both parties. And they're both doing what they think and what they feel is best, even if it's not on both sides. So I like that.
Very Star Trek, where it's like no one's really like wrong per se, but we're rooting for one side because we're familiar with our story more so than the other.
Correct. But you can also take a step back and be like, but I also kind of get where they're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. Like, which is the beauty. Yeah, the absolute beauty of Star Trek and kind of how they do what they do. So, I totally agree. So, cool. Missy, you feel like, no, now it's my turn. Now it's my turn, damn it. Episode 5 is Second Skin, directed by Les Landau. Robert Hewlett-Wolf did the writing from October of 1994. Kara kidnapped by Cardassians. So that really rolls off the tongue. I like that. Surgically altered to look Cardassian, told that she is actually an undercover Cardassian agent. So great episode that actually does end up getting a sequel in season 5. But yeah, she is rumored to be this. Oh my God, and I'm going to draw on a blank. What's the name of the character? What's the name of the character they're telling her that she is? Make me click on the link. Oh, good. I did link these. I'm so smart.
Yeah. I know that.
Ileana, is it Ileana Gamora? Yeah, because it's Legate Gamora, who's is the character's father. He's a Cardassian political bigwig, so she gets nabbed, and what we find is surgically redressed, even though they're telling her, well, we just restored the way you're supposed to look. And obviously with Cardassians in general, the whole thing is a flim-flam, and it's basically a big political exercise, because it's one dude trying to take down this Legate Gamora because he is actually a political dissident, kind of under the radar, and the Central Command wants to expose him, and so they use this thought of his lost daughter to try to do that. And in the end of it, Kira figures it out and figures out that the whole thing is BS, just in time for our heroes to show up and rescue him. So we get a lot of nice Garrick this is Garrick's first trip back to Cardassia during the series. And, in the end of it, Garrick gets to shoot the bad guy, which is awesome, because, it's always good to see Garrick being Garrick. But this is cool. I love the Cardassian episodes because they're so layered in the way that they're, it's the snake eating the tail. They're always trying to find ways to screw each other over. over, even when you find a Cardassian who's essentially a good guy, the way that this Legate Gamora is. So, yeah, I loved this episode. I thought it was great. And again, it got a sequel in season 5, but you never really found out what happened to Ileana. I'm sure she died and never necessarily resurfaced, because even in that season 5 episode, so two years, chronologically after this, she has still not been found. So I don't know. What did you guys think, Missy?
I found this one pretty interesting. Again, from the psychological standpoint, smacks of Stockholm syndrome. They have Kira. They've, restored her to her former Cardassian self, so they say. Mm-hmm. And, we don't know an exact time frame. She's down there more than, 43 minutes, obviously. But by the end, to be actually I was solid in that I knew who I was. I knew, I knew the core. And then now, crap, am I actually where is this part of me that I can't unlock? Why can't I get back to these core memories that I have if I really am this Cardassian that I'm supposed to be?
Right.
So I like that. I like the mental play. The mental play of Star Trek is always fascinating to me.
Right. And nobody does it better than the Cardassians, particularly by, back in TNG with Picard, and there are 4 lights, in the chain of command. So, yeah, most def. Kay?
Yeah. Again, like you were saying, Cardassians I really appreciate how fully realized their culture and their psychology was, because you get great episodes like this where there's always the political intrigue between the Obsidian Order and the Central Command, where that there's these two kind of power structures that are kind of frenemies, and so you see them always trying to undermine each other, and there's just this constant struggle to see who can get the upper hand, and very much in a way where this is one of the main people. Gamora's a main character from Central Command, and Obsidian Order's but let's see if we can just tempt you to sneak you out. Because the thing is, even if he wasn't a dissident, if he genuinely believes, because he's not let in on this, he doesn't know that this isn't his daughter. He genuinely believes this is his daughter. So with Cardassians, it's always family first. So I could see it where I'm he probably would help her escape if he knew she was going to be tortured because he thinks it's his daughter.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But they just, oh my goodness.
They put him in a real rock and a hard place. And I really enjoyed it because I'm watching it and I'm shit, was Kira a plan?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you're right. At any point, it could have ended up being true.
Because they did such a great job building a case and making it seem like this was true. And so you get to go through with Kira and with her self-doubt and with her losing that kind of sense of strong self that she's really kind of renowned for. I mean, if there's one thing Kira knows, it's who she is and what she stands for. And watching that fall apart really was shaking, or was disorienting as an audience.
Right. Especially when they rolled out the mannequin that looked exactly like, it's oh shit, this could really be the deal. So, oh man, nuts.
Well, and to bounce off that, as Kay pointed out, there's nothing higher in Cardassians than what family means. So to end the episode with Kira being here's your family heirloom that should go to your daughter, and to him to give it back and be you're the closest I've had to a daughter. I was oh my God, my heart.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay. I'm not crying. Oh my God.
And I'm not crying.
Oh
I'm
boy.
not crying. It's just raining on my face.
Exactly correct. All right, moving along. Next one's UK.
All right, so we have The Abandoned by Avery Brooks, and directed by written by D. Thomas Mario and Steve Wernick, and it aired October 31st of 1994. Happy Halloween. Quark purchases a salvage ship from the Gamma Quadrant and discovers an infant on board. Cisco invites Marta, the Daba woman. Oh yeah, Marta.
We have lots to say about her.
We have lots to say about Marta.
Oh my goodness.
Woman Jake is interested in to dinner. Odo officially gets quarters aboard DS9. Marta is a predator.
Marta is a predator.
Yeah, right.
Marta is a predator.
Yeah, Jake is 16 and she's 22, and she's
20 is what they say. But I'm like, if this situation was reversed and this was a guy going after a 16-year-old girl, there is no way that this would be played off for laughs. This is predator behavior.
Exactly.
What 20-year-old who was a war orphan, what does she have in common with some 16-year-old army brat? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Who happens to be the son of the commander. That's a coincidence.
Wink. Yeah, wink. Yeah.
Grooming behavior. She's a groomer.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're right. And obviously that being the B story of this episode, because the A story is and again, I think that
the B story.
Yeah, I think the synopsis of this episode kind of sucks. This was directed by Avery Brooks, who is Cisco, who is obviously the Star Trek actor we never hear from anymore because he may have gone nuts. We're not sure. But he's really off the radar. But yeah, the infant that is discovered aboard this junk that Quark purchases from the Bosley freighter captain, who we see a couple of times, is very sexualized in her purple outfit with her purple hair. And oh my goodness, it turns out to be a Jem'Hadar. And so actually this episode teaches us a lot about the Jem'Hadar and their physiology, how they're a genetic construct. They were invented by the founders / the Vorta, who are the middlemen. We haven't even met Jeffrey Combs' Wayun by this point. We don't get him till next season. But we learned that the Jem'Hadar are genetically addicted to this substance, Ketracel White, that if they don't get it after a certain period of time, they will go nuts and then they will die. So they're essentially drug addicted soldiers, which, that's not so great. So yeah, you're right. Right back to the fascism of the Dominion and of the founders, because, it's the ends justify the means. We need, deeply loyal killer soldiers. So let's invent them. And then we'll invent this chemical that causes them to be completely obedient to us, or they're going to die. So, we learned about this. The young Jem'Hadar is played by actor Bumper Robinson, who was in a lot of different stuff in the 90s. He played one of the Jackson kids in the movie about the Jackson 5, which was a favorite of mine. It was a TV movie on ABC, but you've seen him in a ton of stuff. He was in one of those really bad 90s Fox productions, the X-Men. I think it was Generation X, if you've ever caught that. Probably, I don't know if that's on your guys' radar, but when Oxford and I were at MSU, that aired, and yeah, he was one of the, I don't know all the little, if Todd was on, he could tell us, but that's what I remember him from. And he was in some other sitcoms and stuff. So just a very recognizable dude. But this was a great character study, I think, learning more about the Jem'Hadar, but certainly about Odo and him trying to right the wrongs of his own upbringing, because, again, he was raised in a lab and he was treated like a lab specimen. And it took some time for him to make amends and kind of organize his feelings about Dr. Mora, who is the scientist who studied him when he was growing up. So he was like, I can do it better. I can be a better dad to this Jem'Hadar kid. And ultimately, he can't, because it just doesn't exist. The Jem'Hadar are genetically designed killers, and there's no nature versus nurture. It's all nature with them, is what we find out, which is kind of a bummer. So psychologically, Missy, speaking psychologically, Missy, blah, 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 I can do words. What's your take on kind of what I was blabbering about from a psychologist standpoint?
Two parts to this episode from a psychological standpoint. The first, as far as like with the Jem'Hadar being these neurocompound dependent warriors, it's kind of, there's the ethical battle that Odo had with Dr. Bashir of like, well, why do I want to give him this chemical? Well, because if you can't see, he's dying, he's in agony. Like, as a doctor, how can you not give him something to help him exist and help him exist pleasantly? That's kind of the moral battle that people have these days. And I'm going to go total psychology with like methadone and opiate programs, in that, yes, it's something that, is it technically still a substance, but is it better than nothing else? And will it actually help them? Sure, it will. So there's a big moral ethical dilemma with that. I like how Star Trek tries stuff into real life, but the Odo plot line for this, trying to help, like, I can help condition this Jem'Hadar, decondition this Jem'Hadar from being his warrior self. I really feel for Odo again, because it seems like every episode Odo gets like this little carrot of like, look, you can do something really good with who you are, but just kidding, you really can't, and you still have no idea what you're really going to do.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Oh, you almost had it.
It's like, was that one of those old State Farm commercials that I had exactly. Dollar on the end of, yeah. Oh, you almost got it.
Exactly. That's what I thought of. It's like, every episode I feel like poor Odo.
One step forward, 3 steps back.
The effort that he put in was kind of downplayed because you get the end scene with him and Kira, and he just tells her, "I was wrong," in reference to him being able to help this child kind of overcome, the genetic modifications and grooming that they've done for him. And it's again 2 sides of grooming. I'm gonna throw that back in there, but I think in a lot of ways he did help him because he taught him the individuality and the fact that he has a choice to do what he wants to do. And in the end, he chose to go back to the Jem'Hadar and to go back to the Gamma Quadrant to fulfill what he thinks he was supposed to do. So I think that for him Odo to just be like, no, I failed. I didn't succeed. It's like, no, you still taught him individuality and he still was able to make that choice, not because he felt he had to, but because he wanted to.
All right.
Well, and also with that, one of the things that I thought when Odo said that to Kira is, did that also kind of hark back to his own self of, I made the wrong choice. Like, did I make the wrong choice not staying with my people? And did I make a mistake coming back here because I haven't been able to actually be of benefit at this point in his mind? So that was my thought.
Yeah.
Right. For sure.
A really good way to look at it too.
I love it. Well, cool. All right. Let's wrap this up. I'll take this one on. Episode 7 of the season is Civil Defense. Civil Defense, better than Civil Offense. Directed by Reza Badile, who's a name I'm not familiar with. Written by Mike Crone. So you got two people who are not endemic to the series, which sometimes can give you a great script, sometimes can give you a bad script. This is from November of '94. The station is locked down after Jake, O'Brien, and Cisco accidentally activate an automated Cardassian security program. And like I said, this is a great episode that has spawned a wealth of memes out there on the internet with the Kira holding the phaser and with the screen of Gul Dukat saying, "Attention, Kenshin Bajoran workers," and then put something else underneath. The program's counterinsurgency measures keep escalating until it initiates an auto-destruct. Gul Dukat beams on board but is unable to stop the self-destruct sequence. Dun, dun, dun. So, like I said, great episode for all the memes it produced. But at the time, it was it was kind of a weird one, but you get a little bit more Garrick interplay. You get, I think, the second time you end up seeing Dukat and Garrick in an episode together, and you get a little bit more flavor of how interconnected and terrible their history is, because Garrick, of course, was an agent of the Obsidian Order, which is the Gestapo of the Cardassian intelligence agency. And at some point, Garrick was responsible for imprisoning Dukat's father. And so, yeah, not a lot of love going on here.
I think that Garrick to that would respond, "Was I?"
Oh, me? I'm not sure if
Taylor.
What an imagination you have, Captain Cisco.
What a story. I've never heard of such a thing. Yes, exactly. I'm impressed by your imagination. Always what's true is everything is a lie, or what is the famous interchange they have? So is it all truth? Yes, especially the lies or something. Now I'm screwing it all up. My bad. But yeah, kind of cool. I think that was the most valuable part of the episode. But yeah, this was your classic, oh God, the computer's going to kill us kind of situation. I loved how Dukat beamed on board, and then he tried to strong arm Kira, said, I'm happy to rescue you, but I really think it's time to have maybe a Cardassian garrison back on the station. And so I'm going to let you think about my terms, but I'm going to peace out. And he goes to peace out. And then another Cardassian automated comes on the screen and says, "Dukat, you tried to abandon your post. I always knew you were a dickhead, so you can stay there and die." Meow, meow.
Goes down with his ship.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. Deuce, bitches. Yeah, exactly. So, in the end, obviously, you get the, O'Brien and Cisco at the last minute figure out how to move all the little thingies around so that the destructo beams fire off into space, and you know how it goes. But yeah, I don't know. I'm doing all the babbling here. Missy, what do you think about this one?
My notes for this one is I retitled it "Every Toddler Ever." Even
that is the name of the episode.
How did you know that that's what I was typing?
Even looking past potentially an overused sci-fi trope of the computer or the ship takes over and we have to battle the technology.
Oh no, the holodeck! Damn it! Damn
it, Dave! Why do you always do this? It's it seemed like at every turn it became so predictable. It's like, okay, what are we supposed to do? We're going to do the exact opposite and see what happens. It doesn't matter if it's Cisco's orders, if it's what computers. Yeah. It's like, you're going to stay here. I'm going to immediately follow you on your coattails. Or you need to enter this code. Well, I'm going to try and hack it so I don't have to do that instead of just entering the code that I need. Let's just see what happens. What do you have to do? Don't shoot at that. I'm going to shoot at it for 5 times and see what. It's every toddler ever. I'm going to do
every
exactly
toddler
what
ever.
No, I shouldn't do.
Oh, and I love it. I love it when we have a guest on and they so aptly name the episode. Nailed it. Oh, good stuff. Kay, do we get your input on this one?
Yeah, I just thought, I mean, this is kind of redundant because technically every Star Trek episode is a ship in the bottle episode, but this really felt like a great ship in the bottle episode because everything is so contained and you've got these little kind of parallel stories going on where they're all being impacted by the same thing, but they're all trying to figure it out in different ways and they can't communicate with each other. And so it was just a lot of it was weirdly fun despite the really like quote unquote high stakes to it.
Right.
Again, I loved the fact that Gul Dukat just totally got his ass like schooled. It was
dude comes on. Great. Dukat, you suck, and you can die now.
It's just one of those again, and Dukat is just such a great villain to hate. Like you just love to hate him, and the actor does such a great job of really playing into that because. Like, he's just a skis ball, and you know it. And that actor's fully aware of the fact that he's playing a skis ball, and he leans into it. And so it's just, again, I'm always for more Garrick. Always. So I fully enjoyed this episode. I think, honestly, the entire, 7 episodes were very, very strong. It was a really great start to season 3.
Yeah, this was a great block. And as we always do with the block of episodes, let's have a favorite and a least favorite. And Missy, I know you're not prepared, but I know you can think on your feet. So go for it.
I mean, if I have to say, I'm going to probably have to go with the House of Quark.
You think? Really? Are you sure?
I'm going to go with my gut on this one.
Okay, I like it. Gotcha. And what about a duffer?
Probably Equilibrium.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. I totally understand. Kay?
I'm going to totally copy Missy and say that the House of Quark is my favorite. And then I think the Abandon was probably my weakest.
Yeah, I hear you. I love the epicness of the Search Parts 1 and 2, which I really consider a single episode just because it set everything in motion that really capitalized on the rest of the series. And yeah, I agree that Equilibrium was kind of it was okay, but also it was just, I don't know. But again, it's such a strong crop of episodes that it's tough to really even say that one of them was bad because they were so darn good. It was a great start. So, well, cool. Well, gang, that is all the time we have. Missy, thank you so much. This was awesome. This is the first of many appearances that I predict for you on our regular programs. You've been all over the Personnel Files on Patreon, getting us those awesome interviews. And then you and I are going to be doing an upcoming string of episodes over on the Facts of Geek Life, talking about Quantum Leap, and then probably some other shows from there. So, but in the meantime, where do people find you out there on the socials?
You can find me on most socials, especially I'm most active on Instagram at MamaMerch33.
Nice. Good deal. Okay, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at QT Geek. That is Q_T Geek. And you can find me on Counter Social at K Quinn. And that's KAE Quinn.
Awesome. I forgot to read the outro, but we'll do that in a minute. But you can find me over on Twitter at the C3. My lovely wife, April, and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey, which is, it's funny when I always say that, I always look at the picture in the corner that I have of our senior staff, and I don't have that anymore because I'm in my new studio. So I'm going to have to find a new focal point. My new focal point is the wonderful print that Missy had made of April and myself with my late son, Parker. So there you go. Missy, my new focal point is because of you. But anyway, the USS Grand Petoskey can be found at a website of that name, one of the largest chapters of the International Star Trek Fan Club in the world, based right here in West Michigan. I also run Region 13, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada. So if you're a Trekker listening to my voice in that area, drop me a line. We would love to help you find a chapter. And then finally, so we'll circle this back. Katie, you always do such a great job of our outro. So go for it.
All right. Well, you can find us online at secretfriendsunite.com for all of our episodes, additional content, and bios, and our Secret Friends Unite network stars.
Dun, dun, dun. Friends, thank you for joining us. I'm going to say, as always, that sharing is caring, and keep on trekking.
And wherever you go, go boldly.
And may you always find hope in the stars.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.